The rain had just begun when 22-year-old Elena stepped out of the crowded London subway station, clutching the thin coat that barely protected her from the cold wind. Her shoes were wet, her phone battery was dying, and her mind was heavier than the dark clouds above the city. She paused outside a bakery window, staring at the warm golden lights inside. Families laughed over coffee, couples shared desserts, and for a brief moment, she imagined herself living a normal life. A life where she wasn't counting every coin in her pocket. But reality returned quickly. Her mother was sick. Hospital bills had piled up. Her younger brother's school fees were overdue. And Elena had already worked 3 jobs just to keep their tiny apartment in East London alive. That night, she returned home to find her mother coughing violently in bed. The room smelled of medicine and damp walls. "Elena," her mother whispered weakly, "you shouldn't destroy your life for us." Elena forced a smile. "Everything will be okay." But she didn't believe it anymore. A week later, Elena met Victor Harrington. He was 63 years old, wealthy, respected, and carried himself with the calm confidence of a man who had controlled every room he ever entered. He owned hotels, luxury properties, and several businesses across England. Elena first saw him while serving drinks at a private corporate event. Unlike the loud businessmen around him, Victor sat quietly in the corner, observing everyone with sharp grey eyes. At the end of the evening, he stopped her. "You look exhausted," he said. She laughed awkwardly. "Long shift. Life is harder than it should be for some people," he replied. Those words stayed in her mind. Over the next few weeks, Victor returned to the restaurant several times. He always requested the same table. Slowly, conversations began. He listened more than he spoke. Most men her age flirted carelessly. Victor noticed details. He remembered her favorite tea. He asked about her mother's health. He spoke gently. And when Elena's landlord threatened eviction, Victor quietly paid 6 months of her rent without asking for anything in return. At least, not immediately. One evening, Victor invited her to dinner at his mansion outside the city. The estate looked like something from an old English film: marble floors, massive chandeliers, paintings worth more than Elena could imagine. She felt small there. Fragile. Victor poured wine into crystal glasses. "I know what people think when they see us together," he said calmly. Elena lowered her eyes. "You're kind," she answered softly. Victor smiled faintly. "Kindness is rare among wealthy men." Then he looked directly at her. "Marry me." The room suddenly felt silent. Elena's heartbeat echoed in her ears. She almost laughed, thinking it was a joke. But Victor remained serious. "I can give your family security forever," he continued. "Your mother will receive the best treatment. Your brother can attend any university he wants." "And what do you get?" she asked carefully. He looked toward the fireplace before answering. "Someone beside me before I die." For nights, Elena couldn't sleep. She hated herself for even considering it. But poverty changes the meaning of dignity. Every unpaid bill felt like another hand pushing her toward a decision she never imagined making. Her mother cried when Elena told her. "No," she whispered. "You deserve love." "Love doesn't pay hospital bills," Elena replied quietly. A month later, they were married. The wedding appeared in magazines across England. Headlines mocked her. "Gold digger marries billionaire grandfather." Beauty weds fortune. Social media tore her apart. Strangers who knew nothing about her life judged her with cruel confidence. Elena learned quickly that wealth came with another kind of loneliness. Victor's mansion was beautiful, but it never felt like home. The staff treated her politely, yet distant. Victor's adult children despised her immediately, especially his son, Daniel. At dinner one evening, Daniel slammed his glass onto the table. "You think she loves you," he snapped at Victor. "She's waiting for your funeral." Victor's expression darkened. "That's enough." But Daniel stared directly at Elena. "You're younger than my daughter." Elena left the table trembling. That night, she cried alone in one of the mansion's enormous bathrooms, realizing money could buy luxury but never acceptance. Months passed. Victor remained respectful. He never forced affection from her. They lived more like companions than lovers. Sometimes, late at night, he told her stories about his youth, how he built his empire from nothing, how his first wife died from cancer 20 years earlier, and how silence became his only friend afterward. One winter evening, Elena found him sitting alone in the library. "You regret marrying me," he said suddenly. She looked surprised. "No. You miss your old life." Elena thought carefully before speaking. "I miss feeling free." Victor nodded slowly, as though he expected the answer. Then he whispered something that changed everything. "I was selfish." For the first time, Elena saw not a powerful billionaire, but an old man terrified of dying alone. Despite the wealth around her, Elena felt trapped. Every designer dress felt like a costume. Every luxury event felt fake. She stopped recognizing herself. One afternoon, she visited her old neighborhood in East London. Children still played soccer in the narrow streets. The same bakery still smelled warm and sweet. For a moment, she felt alive again. That was when she met Marcus. He worked at a local bookstore nearby, kind eyes, messy brown hair, and an easy smile that reminded her what normal people looked like. Unlike others, Marcus didn't recognize her from tabloids. They spoke for almost an hour about books, music, and life. For the first time in months, Elena laughed naturally. She returned again the next week. And the week after that. Slowly, feelings grew. Dangerous feelings. Elena hated herself for it. Victor had saved her family. Her mother's health had improved dramatically because of his money. Her brother now attended one of London's best universities. She owed Victor everything. But love cannot be manufactured through gratitude. One rainy evening, Marcus finally asked the question she feared most. "Are you happy?" Elena couldn't answer. Because deep down, she knew the truth. She wasn't. That same night, Victor suffered a heart attack. The mansion erupted in panic as ambulances arrived. Elena sat beside his hospital bed for hours while machines beeped softly around them. Victor looked weaker than she had ever seen him. "Don't look so frightened," he joked weakly. Tears filled Elena's eyes. "You can't die." Victor studied her carefully. "Interesting," he whispered. "I think you actually care about me now." And she did. Not as a husband. Not as a lover. But as a human being. A lonely man who had tried to buy companionship because he no longer believed genuine love existed. Days later, Victor asked her to take him outside the hospital in a wheelchair. Cold wind moved through the trees as they sat silently beneath the grey London sky. Then he finally said it. "You should leave me." Elena turned sharply. "What? You're too young to spend your life pretending." She began crying instantly. "I never wanted to hurt you." Victor smiled sadly. "You didn't. Loneliness hurt me long before you arrived." For several minutes, neither spoke. Then Victor handed her an envelope. Inside were legal documents, divorce papers, and ownership of a small bookstore in East London. Marcus's bookstore. Elena stared at him in shock. "You knew?" Victor nodded. "I notice more than people think. Why would you do this?" He looked toward the cloudy sky. "Because love given freely is the only thing worth having." 3 months later, Elena stood inside the bookstore, arranging novels on wooden shelves while soft music played nearby. The place wasn't luxurious, but it felt real. Peaceful. Marcus walked toward her carrying 2 coffees. "You still drift away in thought sometimes," he said gently. Elena smiled faintly. "Just remembering." Victor had moved to the countryside after the divorce. They spoke occasionally on the phone. Surprisingly, there was no hatred between them anymore. Only understanding. Elena finally realized something important. People judged her story without ever knowing its pain. They saw money. They saw age. They saw scandal. But they never saw the frightened young woman trying to save her family, nor the lonely old man desperate not to die alone. In the end, neither of them truly got what they wanted. But perhaps they gave each other something more valuable: honesty and the courage to let go.